mentally or physically, success can be defined as getting up one more time after you've been knocked down over and over and over and over again. My name is T. Wood, and this is Triumphant Moments, where I highlight significant moments in life that are beyond the surface to encourage, inform, and inspire people to triumph over life's challenges. With me today, I have Mr. Chris Nappier. He began his professional journey in the field of information technology, where he now works for the Department of Justice as an IT project manager. When not working to change culture within the federal space, Chris runs his own agriculture business, raising and selling goats and livestock. My brother Chris, welcome.
Hey, man, I appreciate it, Steve. Appreciate you having me, man. That was an amazing introduction, man. I'm loving that. I am loving that.
Appreciate it. Look, we're going to go ahead and just jump right on into it. First and foremost, let's step back here. Let's get a little peek into your upbringing. How would you describe your upbringing? What was it like?
Man, let me tell you, my upbringing was pretty much like anyone else's. Two parent household. Had my mom and dad. We grew up pretty much that classic middle income family. My mother, she worked for the federal government up until the point she retired. My father worked for the federal government up until the point that, he retired. He had the two kids. The only difference between the 2.5 and the picket fence is that, one, we didn't have a fence, and two, my mother don't like pets, so we didn't have a dog. I relegated my upbringing to the house gerbil and the goldfish that didn't make it. So, that was our lifestyle. That was our upbringing. I'm blessed to have a younger sibling, just my sister Courtney. It was just she and I, and just a host of family members, cousins, and aunties and uncles. Man, that was our family. We were just that regular, everyday, Black family that worked, loved one another to build up that family archetype, that family system. Man, so
based on what you're saying, that is something y'all really cherish, like that family time. Was that a big deal in your family, finding ways to spend time with each other? Not all family find ways to spend time with each other.
You know what? Honestly, I think that was part of the pillars when you talk about the fact that both my parents worked, that we tried to find that time, right? Because when you're talking about, back in the early 80s and, early 80s and 90s, when you had two parents working, brother, I'm telling you, man, it was just, your parents worked until what? That normal 9 to 5, 9 to 6.
Right.
I was a latchkey kid growing up. So once we got out of the phase of having someone at the house to make sure they could let you in, we pretty much had to walk ourselves to the bus, come home from school, let ourselves in, make that free snack. So my parents were never home once we got into that middle school phase when we would get off that bus, because that's just the way it was back then when we were working. The clock stopped at 5. So, the bus was dropping you off at 3:30, 4 o'clock. So, my dad and my mom really did want to encourage that time. We used to do these things called in-house picnics. My father actually, created this, where every Friday, he would take an old table, we would lay it on the floor, we'd be in his room, in my parents' room. We would put it on the floor. He'd buy pizza, Chinese food, all these different items. And we would literally sit on the floor, pop something on the TV, and we would have a floor picnic. And that would be our way of, spending time with each other.
Wow.
Mind you, my mother wasn't a major fan because she always relegated to do the cleanup work when we were younger. But that was one of those cherished memories that I always keep with me. And I was like, man, I got to do this one day with my kids, to kind of recreate that. We tend to lose a lot of that value system because, we've grown in technology. Like my mother hated the TV in the kitchen because I always wanted to watch the TV in the kitchen. So when we sat down at the dinner table, we wanted that quiet time to just talk to each other. And now we know that don't happen today. we don't even eat in the kitchen anymore. Now we just eat where we find most comfortable in front of that TV and just enjoy, I guess, our social media presence that we have now. So yeah, that was something that was one of the key pillars when we were growing up, to really find that time to enjoy each other without any other distractions. And that was something that sparked, and I remember so vividly with that we used to do with my dad, like all the time, man. That pizza Friday, Chinese food. He loved Chinese food, so we always had to make sure there was Chinese food, because that was his go-to.
We've all had some kind of connection with that. I tell you what,
yeah.
And really thinking back, look, you're at the age of 38. Let's take a step back. Let's look at where you graduated from, okay? So what made you decide to attend specifically Hampton University?
Man, so, I'm always going to be, lover of my alma mater, the real HU, Hampton University, just an illustrious black college. What sparked HBCU for me, honestly, it was kind of like happenstance, to be quite honest with you. My mother, both my father and my mother went to UDC, Black College. So it was in a sort of a roundabout way, subconsciously built within me, that I think I was going to be destined to always go to an HBCU. Now, mind you, I did apply to Maryland. I applied to, Towns University. I did apply to other colleges, and I actually got acceptance from these colleges. But, I went to Hampton University, and it resonated with me. I actually went to Morehouse. I also applied and visited Morehouse College.
Oh, so on a visit?
Visit.
Okay.
Yeah, I applied to Morehouse and went through, and I got my acceptance back from Morehouse. But I actually visited Morehouse and said, you know what, I don't want to stay here. I went to that campus, and a gorgeous campus, man. Mind you, gorgeous campus. But when something has to vibe with you. It has to connect with you.
Right. And
Hampton University it connected to me when I saw the campus, when I, went to the university. And I'm going to tell you why God doesn't make any mistakes. When I went to that university, I knew no one that went to that school. But when I dropped my bags and I unpacked my suitcase and my parents left, and I walked and get ready to walk the campus, I saw one of my guys from high school pulling up with his family, which is literally one of my closest guys from high school.
Wow.
And to this day, like my brother, I did not know he was going to Hampton University, and it was lockstep. It was like it was meant to be, man. I'm telling you. So there's no mistakes, and the joys that I've received from the HBCU, from, like right now, we're living in a bubble, right? Everybody living in a bubble. You saw what they did with the NBA championship. They put them in a bubble, so that way there was no outside influences or risk of catching this COVID-19 that's been going around. But I say for those 4 years at Hampton University, that HBCU, those HBCUs that you go to, you get that bubble as a black person, as a black man, black woman, because for those 4 years, it's not about your race in particular as it relates to the issues that you deal with when you go outside and you focus on this world and you see all the criminal justice and the issues. I kind of always say this to somebody. You know why I love being at HBCU for 4 years? Because if someone didn't like me, they didn't like me not because of my skin or some racial bias. They just didn't like me. And you know how good
so your characteristics then.
To know that someone just doesn't enjoy you for who you are, or just like you for who you are, without any of the other undertones that goes with when you're out in the world, right? When you get hired on a job, you want to ask, oh, was it because they need to meet the quota? Or if someone said, I don't really like this person, was it because of the fact that my skin came first? In an HBCU, all of that gets washed away, and you really just get to know and love or dislike people because of the character of a person. And I'm telling you, that insulated bubble, it grows in you, and then you get this long-lasting relationship that you create with people. I, to this day, still connect with people from, Hampton University because of that relationship, that bond. There's a familial bond you create in an HBCU that I have yet to find out when I'm out here asking about other more predominantly white institutions. Like, do you get that? And I've not found that the way you see in HBCUs,
That's
man.
Absolutely a beautiful thing. That's absolutely a beautiful thing. And just to send a shout out to continue to support our HBCUs. With that being said, are there also opportunities for people who do not have a college degree So let's talk about those opportunities that are available in the IT industry first.
Oh, absolutely. Man, let me tell you, the one thing that I love about information technology as a whole is that you don't have to actually go to a 4-year college to make it in IT. You have to have a determination, you got to have a drive, and you just have to have a focused plan in order to really make it in IT. I'll tell you this. I'll give you a quick story. I have a great friend of mine who, I'll leave him nameless. I would shout him out, but I'll leave him nameless because I know he's a shy guy. But anyway, I have a good guy of mine, like a brother to me. And I remember when I was in school, I graduated from college, and I came out of school and I came back home. And, we connected like everything. He actually took care of me all through my 4 years of college. When I would come home, I didn't have any money. I was a college student. I had no money. But he went straight from high school to working. And so, when I started getting into this field in this industry out of school, I saw the differences, and I had a conversation with him. I said, man, I really want to do stuff for you. I want to do stuff with you, but I can't do anything for you because I don't have any connections other than the IT field. And I said, man, listen, go out and do these things. I gave him some, focused plans on go get these certifications, go do these things. And mind you, he had no experience, formally of educational training when it comes to college or otherwise when it came to IT. But I said, man, if you put the focus time in and go get these things, I can actually put the time and the focus in on putting you into this field that could potentially maybe make some changes in your lifestyle.
Wow.
And he took that step and did his thing. And nothing that I did to push him. He found that drive within himself other than the determination to say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do it. He called me. Remember the day he called me, told me he did what he needed to do as far as getting those certification opportunities. And the day he did it, the very next day, I put him in for a job. And then a few weeks to a month later, boom, he's working in the IT field and now building on that growth, on that platform and on that foundation. That's allowed him to, change his family's direction, do the things that we all dream to do when you come out of school, and which just make a better way for yourself financially and, start that lifestyle that supports your family and your legacy of your kids. So I'm proud of him. I'm proud of the work he's put in. And I'm just happy that I was able to be in a position that I can help. I think that's the goal. I think that's what God wants for everybody. So I'm happy to be that, to have had that opportunity. It's a beautiful thing for me. So that's why I say IT is definitely a space where you don't have to be college educated. If you just got a focused mind, you can build in this industry.
I tell you what, let's take a step back and look at the big picture here. So on one side, we have the IT, okay, information technology aspect that you have here. But on the other side, we have agriculture business. So tell us about how you and your father got into the agriculture business.
Oh man, easy answer. My grandfather, my dad's father, he grew up growing tobacco, raising cattle, raising pigs. He was a farmer. He grew up a farmer. He was one of the first black farmers in Virginia. The legacy that's rooted, and we could spend a lot of time, actually, we spend a lot of time on this topic, I'll be honest with you, because the legacy that my grandfather created, that my father took on, was that the fact, when he first bought land in Virginia, he couldn't read. It was my grandmother that had to read to my grandfather. It was my grandmother that had to keep the books because she could read, and she would read the paper to my grandfather. But my grandfather had an entrepreneurial spirit, an entrepreneurial mind, and he knew he wanted to do farming. And now, mind you, this is in the early 20s and 30s. So as a black man trying to own land in Virginia, that's just something that just wasn't going to happen. There's a lot of racial obstacles that were put in his way. I even remember when I was told the story by my father that he bought the land that he bought from the bank. They had charged him so much in interest that it was really almost commiserate to sharecropping. But, my grandfather turned that around and actually paid off that loan and paid it off early because of his determination and his determination. If you looked at it in today's term, in today's cash flow, you're almost talking about trying to get $1 million loan for land that he paid off in less than, 15 years? Because of his determination and the work that he did. And his entire family helped the land because, back then, black folks had big families. he had 10 brothers and sisters. So, he had a lot of people where the family came together and worked off the land. So but that story, it stuck with my father as he went off to college and he went into government. But he always knew he wanted to get back to his roots. And that's where where I myself and my dad, and really with the leadership of my father, he wanted to really start this business in agriculture. He wanted to really grow, which more specifically, he watched how a lot of blacks, especially in rural areas, they would get a lot of land due to, family passing on land to them, a lot of deaths in the family. But what tends to happen is no one actually goes back and cultivates that property. And you end up selling it off, and you a lot of times you lose it to majority white families. And so he really took that as a personal challenge to himself to say, what do I do in order to create a legacy to where we don't lose this access to wealth, which is land ownership, and can cultivate it to become a wealth growth business, but largely to stay within our Black community. And he just saw that one of the areas that was a booming area because of the change of diaspora of our culture in the U.S., that goats is really a prime area. So we went out and we did the research, and we looked at the market, and we decided to get into raising livestock, primarily goats. We actually did a conference at Tuskegee University, another major Black.
Now, what year was this?
Alma mater. This was 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Okay. That we went to this conference that was considered a GOAT conference, and we just got more immersed into the growth. We have partnerships with other Black universities. One in particular, Virginia State, which is a university my wife graduated from. Wow. So if you're really listening and kind of seeing, everything connects right back.
I was just about to say
to
that.
each other. And how these are those things that helps me say that I see it, God. I understand. Do it, and I'm gonna continue to try to follow that path and that perspective. So it's really just been, to what I can say, inspirational in a way, as well as challenging in a beautiful way, to really try to cultivate this opportunity when it comes to agriculture and just really this ownership. And that's the major thing, Black ownership. You don't see it anymore as much. I think it's starting to try to really come back with what we see in today's climate. But when you talk about middle-class America, which is middle-class Black America, that's where we want to see our focus grow more when it comes to land ownership.
Now, when you take a look at, I noticed you placed emphasis on land ownership. With that being said, right now we're in the era of COVID-19. How has COVID-19 affected the business within agriculture?
So overall, largely COVID-19 has affected agriculture just due to social distance restrictions for, sale and things of that nature when utilizing, purchasing products to keep the livestock going. But largely, it hasn't had a lot of impact, mainly due to the fact that we are of the mind, my father's always been of the mind, always prepare yourself. So even before the pandemic came to us in the U.S., we were already kind of prepared because we were always stocking up, for our livestock, getting the grain, finding ways to not need to always purchase items to feed our livestock. One of the things my father's been largely working with BSU as well as on his own time is, growing and drying out his own grass, like actual cutting of grass to grow it. You going around looking at different locations and areas where grass is grown kind of high into a hay-like form, and utilizing properties around us to cut that and create a food resource for our livestock. So having already a proactive mind, which I commend my father for being of that nature, we've been able to really kind of sustain through this process. I cannot say much for other farmers in the industry as well, but because of what we've been able to do and the access of what my free time that my father has being retired, it has really allowed for us to be able to maintain and sustain through this tragic time that we're in.
Now tell us about how you're trying to build legacy wealth through land ownership and development, particularly.
Well, that's a great That's a great question. And what I would say to that is, not only do we do the farming, but we do real estate. So if you go and if you look at any of the top, authors or thought leaders when it comes to growing financial wealth, one of the main pillars of growing wealth is real estate, land ownership, and real estate. That is something that has been instilled in us for pretty much our entire lives. Like I said before, my grandfather owned his own land. He owned his own land. He lived off his land. Anything that they pretty much wanted to, other than buying salt, pepper, other condiments, they grew their own vegetables. They grew their own meat. So they lived on their own. And that helped springboard when you come into the 21st century to say, how do we continue to do that? How do we continue to create passive income to grow wealth? Well, real estate being that one pillar, obviously another pillar is investment. So when we started looking at the real estate, one of the key things we did, as my father bought a home, as he was trying to grow his family, he didn't sell it. He turned it into a rental. Then he bought another property. He lived in it. He raised a family in it. Then when he was ready to grow and expand more of his space, he did the same thing. And through this effort, what we've been able to do is that we've been able to actually house most of our family members who have pretty much relegated opportunities to being in rentals a lot of the time. So we say, well, instead of our family members having to go out, rent so much to these apartment buildings who don't care about you, who could care less other than the dollars you bring in, why not find houses for our family members that we now have the security, the safety, and understanding that we no longer need to worry about your room, your board, because you're going to be living under our roof, because that's what we want to do for our family. It almost becomes that way of charitable giving to our own family members to say, hey, we want to ensure that our family members are always taken care of. My grandfather, my grandmother lived in the house that my dad owned up until the point that both of them passed away. But how good of a joy it was to understand that my grandfather didn't have to ever worry about where he was going to lay his head at night, because he was living in a house that we helped, that we had given to them. Same as for my other family members. The pandemic devastated a lot of our family members. But one thing that they did never have to worry about is where you're going to sleep at night, because they were living in homes that we were able to provide for them as a way forward, because that's the legacy. You remember the old wave of the big house, everybody living in the big house?
Oh, yeah.
We don't have big houses, but we got enough of little houses of real estate that can provide for our family members to be able to be sustained. And it's just a blessing when you can look back on that and the opportunities that has availed what I would consider our next generation because of that opportunity. Because my aunts or uncles or things of that nature didn't have to worry about housing, it actually allowed their sons and daughters to springboard forward to now they own property. And when you see the ripples in the pond, when you make these type of decisions and then make these choices, then you can't do nothing but smile and get emotional about it, because you can see the fruits of your labor when you put in the work and you start to tend the soil. And that's why real estate investment is just a key pillar in growing the wealth and growing your legacy and generational wealth. Because at the end of the day, it provides opportunity and income no matter what.
It is important. It is very important that we not just lightly brush over the fact of what you just said, with being able to plant that seed and water that seed and allow it to grow. See, a lot of things that we tend to mix up, and I want my listeners to understand this, is that we tend to get too caught up into instant gratification. So we're talking about instant quick money, instant quick access to things. You have to be able to learn to work your resources and be patient enough to plant an investment and then do the things you need to do to watch it grow. It's worth it. That's a part of creating that general wealth. And so when we sum all those things up of what we expressed during this call, Chris, what I want you to do, we have a slogan here at Triumphant Moments. We call it encouragement for free. What encouragement for free could you provide to our listeners as we approach our closing?
I'm going to tell you, so free encouragement that I would give everyone here is to, honestly, encouragement I say is continue to push through, continue to move forward, because it is always easy once you reach a certain level of success to fall off. If you look at the gym, and you go to the gym for one or 2 days or a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, But when you get into the fourth month, the fifth month, the sixth month, we can understand why we fall off and we stop going to the gym, and then we lose all that progress that we gain. And encouragement is to continue to go push through, do the simple things daily that roll into the big things. And I push that into the focus of financial. My free encouragement is through financial. I know we teach our children from the get-go, right out of the break when they're able to walk and talk. Go wash your face, go brush your teeth in the morning, because we want to create good hygiene. And the phrase I like to say is create good financial hygiene. Get rid of the slogan that stay in a child's place when it comes to money, because it isn't a child's place. It is a child's place for them to learn how money works at a very early age, because we teach our kids to learn by doing and by seeing. They're sponges when they're younger. So give them all they can with financial. Don't wait until they're older and they become like us and they don't want to learn new things.
Brother, that's encouragement for free.
Financial journey.
Absolutely. That's encouragement for free. If anyone wanted to just kind of dive in and kind of be interested, even if it's into the agriculture business and things of that sort, is there a way of any social medias you have, anything like that?
So yeah, if people just wanted to, reach out to me personally and just want to talk more about how you got into it, just thoughts or recommendations on, they could definitely hit me on Instagram. It's at King Napes. I do sometimes a lot of my posting there when it comes to some of the agriculture work we've been doing, or just better yet, there's websites. I will start looking at the HBCUs. The BSU has a beautiful website for all of their agriculture work that they do. Real estate investing, there's tons of websites out there that you can go to for real estate investing. When it comes to buying your first home, they actually have classes now to even get you certified to be a first-time home buyer. So there's tons of information. The key I would say is CNN Money is the one I go to, but there's a good one that I'll shout out. They're already out there, biggerpockets.com. I use them. It's a guy that created that website back in 2007 during the recession, but turned it into a multi-million-dollar business of where now he's giving back through this website of free investment advice to get everybody wealthy and get out of the cubicle space. I go there all the time to get more knowledge and gain more information. Man.
Appreciate that, Brother Chris. Thank you for the information. Last but not least, is there any project that you have approaching, or we're going to have you on the show again? I can tell you that right now. But for right now, is there any other project you have coming up, or we can address that at another time?
Right now, projects that we have going on right now is just really for us right now. We are really focused on my wife and I, as well as my family and I. We're looking to really turn around what our Black buying power is. When I was talking with my family, I really said, and I looked at all of us and I said, our buying power is so much, but we are so focused in different ways that we need to come together. And how can we collectively take that buying power and push us forward from a legacy and generational wealth perspective? So we're currently working on that now, where we're looking at everything that we have together as individuals, and so that we can come together as a collective group and grow and leverage that buying power to do more within our community as well as within our family. Right. Because I think it starts there. If you can build up your family, then that can grow. Build up your community, then you can build up your county, you can build up your city, you can build up your state, you can build up your country.
There it is, listeners. There it is. Thank you, Brother Chris, for being on the show. Really appreciate you taking out time in your day to be able to drop this information. We are definitely going to have Brother Chris on the line again. We'll definitely have you on the show again for another episode. Y'all know what it is.
No, man, but hey, man, thank you. I just want to personally say before we jump off, man, what you're doing here is great. It's inspirational. When you asked me to do this, I jumped at the chance, because when you told me what the premise of what you're trying to accomplish here, this is perfectly aligned with, I think, what we need this now. We need this right now in our community. This needs to be talked about. And I'm just, I've just had such a pleasure. And thank you for just allowing me to have the space in what I believe is something that's going to just plant and grow to be something amazing, man. So shout out to you, brother.
Awesome, awesome. To all my viewers, y'all know what's next. Sometimes in life, you must fail in order to succeed. But one thing remains certain. You must never, ever, ever give up. This is T Wood, Triumph for Moments.